Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I am Jenny, and as always, I first and foremost want to thank you guys for choosing to spend a little time with me today. I really, really appreciate it. And speaking of you guys, I had some really good comments last week. I actually had a lot of comments last week. They're always good. About my Hinterlands dress from last week's video. I had a couple of you guys make suggestions for embellishing or the sleeveless version or like a lot of other things. All those suggestions are great ideas. I don't know that I like that dress enough to make it again, but I think I will, in an attempt to save that one, I think I will probably remove the sleeves and I don't know, maybe give it a little bit of a high-low hem like my Tina Gibbons, what's it called, Zelda slip maybe? I don't know. I'll do something with it. Anyways, aside from that, Soxy Mama and Grace both have, but where's my pattern? They both have the Kindred Spirits vest that I was talking about, which totally cracks me up. I cannot believe you guys still have this from the 80s. Well, I know one of you guys had it from the 80s. The other one might have gotten it after that, but I suspect you've both had it in your stash for 30 years. Pretty impressive. Anyways, I feel like if you guys have this pattern, you should make it up and we should all have our Kindred Spirits vests on. Yeah. And one of you, I can't remember which one of you, it was either Soxy Mama or Grace, one of you suggested doing a covered snap on that vest instead of a button, a la Kristen Larson, which I think is a really great idea, and that is probably what I will do for that vest. I still haven't finished it. Even though I said I think I'm going to have time to be here every week throughout the move, I neglected to acknowledge that while I may have time, I am not having that much space. I'm trying to pack stuff. So the space I have to work in for my sewing is even more limited than usual, which means that I just have been pushing things off. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not sewing. I just have been like not getting as much done. Anyways, Kindred Spirits. Okay. Also, last week I was talking about Tauko magazine being available at Lakes Makerie, which is, I know it's in Minnesota. I think it's in Minneapolis. Angela commented to let us all know that Lakes Makerie offers free shipping on that magazine. And also free shipping if you spend over like $120 or $130, something like that. Not hard to do, as we all know. But if you're just buying the magazine, free shipping. So, again, I'm going to link that below for you guys. Okay. Today we are doing a quick tutorial on this, which is my Lillies dress. I'll show you a quick picture here. Here? Yeah, here. This is an Aura Guignard. You know what I'm going to do? Hang on a second. Sorry, that took me a minute to get all that together. I pronounce Aura's name incorrectly all the time. So here we go. It's on Google Translate. And the name of her shop is Aura Guignard. Aura Guignard. I will link her shop below. As you guys know, I have made several of her other patterns before. I think the first one I made from her was the Daisy, which I love. I've only made it once, but I really want to make it again. I've made 2 or even 3 of her pants. The Sahara, the Mojave, and the Pantsarong. I think that's, oh, and the Aura belt that we talked about last week. Anyways, Pamela had asked if we would do a little tutorial on the Lillies dress. This came out maybe a month or so ago. I'm totally in love with this dress. It actually goes together pretty easily. Let me just tell you before we go any further, because I keep messing with it. I had to take my shoulders down a little bit. I have very straight shoulders. So a lot of times this inner edge pokes up. So usually what I do is I just take a 1/2 inch off of the neckline edge of my shoulder, and I taper it out to nothing at the shoulder, at the arm, at the sleeve edge. Yeah, cut it off at the neck side, taper it to nothing at the arm side. Okay, so I did that. However, I think this neckline is still a teeny bit too wide for me. So I am going to take it in probably just a 1/2 inch, which will make it like altogether an inch narrower. All right, those are the only alterations that's the only alteration I did and the only alteration I'm going to do. Aside from that, I always do this. I think it was a medium, but I honestly don't know. So, anyways, I cut according to the size chart. The size is perfect. It's exactly the way I wanted it to be. This particular dress I made is in a lightweight, it's pretty lightweight linen. It's an Italian linen that I got from Haberman Fabrics, I don't know, a month or so ago. And in the tutorial, the bodice portion is not included in the tutorial because it's literally like a front and back and sleeves. It's the same thing you've done a million times. On this one, I put the shoulder seams together, then put the arms in flat and did the side seam and underarm seam at the same time. I did do the neck facing. If you do the sleeveless version, there is an arm facing also. And that is what I'll do for the next version. Okay, let me think for a second. I think that's all I have to say about this. At the moment, the tutorial is how to put together the skirt portion. You'll see in the tutorial I was a little confused about the pockets because for some reason I thought they were inseam pockets and like in the side, and they are not. They actually go in the top here. So if I seem confused in the tutorial, I do sort it out by the end, and that is that's what was going on there. Okay, so tutorial now, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Okay, for our Lillies dress, for the bodice, you're going to have 3 pieces: a front, a back, and a sleeve. These are going to go together just like any other front, back, and sleeve. So sew your shoulders, put your sleeves in, sew your side seams, and your underarms. I just want to point out that this line on the sleeve is a center line, so be sure to mark that. These are notches here, but be sure to mark the center of the sleeve too, because that's pretty helpful. The other thing is, if you're making this with a faced neckline, which is what I did, or a faced sleeve, if you're doing this sleeveless version, you're going to need to trace these pieces out because they are not separate pieces in the pattern for this. So you're just going to trace this out, and then the outer edge of your collar. For your front facing, this one will be your back facing, and then you'll do the same thing for your sleeves. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now, for our petals, which make up the skirt, you're going to have 2 pattern pieces. One that looks like this. These are the upper petals, and one that looks like this, these are the lower petals. And it doesn't say on here anywhere, so it might be helpful to mark these. They should look like this. This piece with the inward curve is the top of this piece. The larger edge here is the bottom. On this one, this flat edge here with the angle, this is the top, and this narrower straight piece is the bottom. Now, these all get cut on the fold, and in order to put these together, you're going to want to put the bottom of this piece to the top of this piece, and it will fit like right along here. This angle right here is going to get attached later. But to make that easier to do, I recommend putting a notch at the bottom of this petal and at the top of this petal, so you have something to match up when you go to put them together. I'm always getting this out of the way, but this is You want to put a notch here and here. Okay, that should be clear enough. Now, you should have 6 of each of those. I have pins on the wrong side of mine, so this is the right side. And you can see here where I put a little notch. This is the right side of one of my top petals. So I'm going to put these right sides together. I'm going to match up those center notches that I made. And now you can see where there's a little corner here. That's where this edge should meet up. So like that. Oh, I forgot to say, you guys, when I was showing you this, shoot. Let's put this on here for a second. Okay. I have already finished the side edges of all my petal pieces. So on the upper petals, this side and this side are finished. The top and the bottom are not finished. On the lower petals, this side and this side are finished, but this whole top edge and this bottom edge are not finished. And I will show you why in just a minute. Okay, so now let's get back to putting these together. So I've matched up my center. I've matched up this corner with this corner. The corner of this with the corner of this. So you can see there's this big flap hanging out. And now I am just going to fit these in. I measured the seam allowances on this and they appear to be 3/8 of an inch. I can't remember if she says something about the seam allowances in the directions, but I used 3/8 of an inch and they were fine. So there we go. And they really do fit in here pretty well. Okay, so once you have it pinned, it should look like this. And we're just going to sew this on from this corner to this corner. And you are going to get some stress here, so be sure you do your back tacking. Okay, so now I have this sewn. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this whole edge. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to use my serger. I'm going to start all the way over here, finish this seam across here, and then I'm going to finish the rest of this off. The top and the bottom are going to get fit. This top and this bottom of the skirt are going to get finished off later. You don't have to do it this way. You can go ahead and finish all the edges on your petals if you want. I just feel like this saves a little time and thread because you just have to do it once. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, that is my seam. You can see I serged it there and all the way across and down to here. Now, if you're serging yours, just be sure you don't trim any fabric off because you need the seam allowance here for the next piece. Anyway, that's what it looks like on the back. I have serged it and I have pressed it up. I've pressed my seam up towards the smaller petal, towards the top. And this is what it looks like on the right side. All right, so we have 6 of these all together. I'm going to go ahead and assemble my other 5, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now we have 6 of these panels. Let's see if I can get this away any further. Nope, that's it. Okay. All right, so now we have 6 of these panels. They each look like this. So this is the top and this is the bottom. At this point, all of the side pieces should be serged and finished. So I'm going to put these together into a front and a back. So I have 3 panels for the front and 3 panels for the back. And the way they go together is just like this. Obviously right sides together, and I actually think because this seam is pressed upwards, I think it's going to be easiest to sew them from this direction. So we're going to sew straight up this side. And then when you get to this corner, you're just going to pivot. It might be helpful to mark your seam allowance right here at this corner so you know where you're pivoting. And then the same thing here, right here at this corner, you're going to pivot again. And you're going to go right over the seam allowance, and that'll sort of, sewing it from the bottom up, that's going to sort of help make sure that that doesn't get sewn down in the wrong direction. Okay, I'm going to do that all the way to the top. Like that. And then we're going to do that one more time. So that's one. And then we're going to sew another one together. Like this. And that'll be either the front or the back. And then you're going to do the same thing with the other three panels. You'll sew them together exactly the same way. And you will have 2 sets of 3 panels. One for the front and one for the back. And then we'll come back and talk about putting our pockets in. Okay, so a couple of things. I have my front and back together, but I need to point out that you can just put all 6 of them together. The pockets don't go in the side seams, thank goodness, because I really was not able to figure out how that would happen. So just sew all 6 of these together, so you'll have a circle of them. When you're done sewing them together, you're going to want to press these seams open, which is why it's important you have them finished before you sew them together, okay? So each of these is going to get pressed open, and you'll see that it's got like a funky point that comes in this way. It needs to be pointed towards the inside of the skirt, just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put my front and back together. I will point out, when sewing these together, I mean, can you see how my seams are completely off here? I'm going to let that go on this one, but they really should look like that. So just be really precise when you're doing your pinning there. Okay, we'll come back and do our pockets in a minute. Okay, this is what the skirt portion of our Lillies dress looks like. And you will see we have these little points that go through to the back. I don't know if you can see that. Anyways, we're going to turn this inside out. And now you'll be able to see them. These are our little points here. Now what we want these to do is, they're pressed open. You want to fold this up. I'm going to fold mine right on the seam just for now. And you're going to fold it straight up like this. And then we're going to tack that down right in the seam. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But turn it right side out. Be sure you don't pin it to the front of your skirt, which is what I just did. So from the right side, it's going to look something like this when it's tucked up under there. So you can pull this up as much or as little as you like. If you pull it up more, it will look more like that. Look like a bigger poof. You could pull it up less, and it would be something like that. It's really up to you how much you want to fold this under. I think for this one, I'm going to fold mine right along the seam line, especially since my seams don't match that well. I'd like to really cover that as much as possible. I am also going to pin mine from the outside, because when I go to tack these down, there we go. When I go to tack these down, I'm going to do it right here in a stitch in the ditch, right here in the middle of that seam, so it'll be pretty invisible. And then these will hang down like this. All right, I hope that's pretty clear. Let's do another one. Okay, now that I have all of those pinned up in place, I'm just going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch into the ditch in each one of those spaces. So 6 times all the way around. And if you haven't finished the top edge of the skirt yet, go ahead and do that. I just serged mine, but you can finish it any way you like. And also finish the bottom of your bodice. Okay, this is what it looks like from the back. You can see where these are sewn up like that. And from the front, it looks like that. And each one of these where I sewed this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but I really only sewed it about 6 or 8 stitches, so it's maybe a ½ an inch worth of stitching on each pleat. I tried it a little bit longer and I didn't like it as well, but you can play around with how far down you sew it too. Okay, so the next thing is, now we're finally going to put in our pockets. Okay. Pick one of these panels to be your center front. It does not matter which one because they're all the same. We're going to call this one my center front. We're going to take 2 of our pocket pieces and we're going to line one of them up with this seam on one side of my center panel. And then we're going to take another one and we're going to line it up on the other side of that center panel. So this side seam is where one goes and this side seam is for the other one. Alright, so now we're going to just go sew those 2 on. Then we're going to take our bodice. I'm going to turn mine upside down because it's easier this way. And again, right sides together. You'll see I put a mark in my center, but off to the side of that, right here, is a notch. And right here is a notch. And that's where we're going to line our pockets up on this side. So this is the edge of one. My pocket's going to go right here. And the other one is going to go over here. And again, this is where the inside edge of the pocket goes. So right there. Okay, so we're going to sew these on. And we're going to press these this way. Okay, this is what our top looks like. And then on the skirt, this is our skirt. And those are our pockets. Now, what you do want to do is, on mine, I put a little notch at the center front and at the center back. And I'm going to do that right now on my skirt because I don't have notches there. So I'm going to put a little notch here. At the center front. And then I'm going to find the one that is the center back, which will be this one, and I'm going to do the same thing. put a little notch right here. Now I'm going to turn my skirt inside out. Like that. And I'm going to take my bodice piece, and it is right side out, and I'm going to stick it inside my skirt. Okay, it's going to be hard to see this, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center front of my bodice, which is right here. I'm going to match it up with that notch that I just made in the center front of my skirt, and I'm going to pin those together. And I'm going to work my way over to the pocket, which is right here. And then this pocket on the other side. Now, I have my pocket here, both pieces, and I'm going to put a pin here on the other side of my pocket where it needs to match up. And once I have that in place, I'm going to go ahead and pin the pocket together. So now that should be pretty even. We're just going to pin along this edge. All right, we're going to do the same thing with the other pocket. Okay, once I have my pockets pinned, I'm going to go to the center back. I'm going to skip pinning all the rest of this for a second. And I'm going to go to the center back. And I'm going to match up the notch in my skirt with the notch in my top. And she does have other notches here. I don't know if you can see these. These should line up with the seams. So this seam is going to line up here, right with the center of that seam. This one's going to line up right here with this notch. They're a little hard to see because I've already serged mine. And then I have a center one right here. I'm going to match that up right there. And I'm going to put a couple more pins in this center back panel. Alright, so that should be good. Now I'm just going to go to the next panel. Either way, it doesn't matter which direction you go. And you're going to see, it looks like this. This side seam of this skirt is not going to match with the side seam of your bodice. So just kind of ignore that. It's going to be off by, it looks like maybe 3/4 or 1/2 inch. And we're just going to finish pinning this in. And then I'm going to work towards the front. I should have, yeah, the rest of it's pinned. So this is the side that we just did. My skirt got a little stretched out. It might be smart, you guys, to do a stay stitching line around the top of your skirt before we put all those pieces together. Okay, now we're going to go back to this side. There's our center back. And now we're going to match up this side. Again, the side seam is right here on my top. It's right here on my skirt. They're not going to match up. They're off by, like I said, about 1/2 inch maybe. And they're not supposed to match up. They just, it's not just mine. They don't match up. Okay. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we are going to sew all the way around this top edge. When we get to a pocket, we're just going to pivot, go around the pocket, straight to the next pocket, same thing, go around your pocket. And then we'll be back. Okay, you guys, I hope that that was helpful. I did get a comment from one of you guys, Phyllis, I think, was putting together another one of Artai's patterns. I think you were doing the Gabriel, the newer shrug pattern that I was talking about last week, and you mentioned that there were no numbers on the pages when you printed them out. I have noticed that that is the case with, I don't know, I think all of her patterns. But I'll just tell you how I do it. I usually just make sure my printer is set up so that all the pages stack on top of each other, which means that I have to make sure there's nothing in the way, including a dog. And then they stack up just as they come off the printer, and I sort of just lay them out until it stops making sense. So it's usually like 4 pages across, and then you can kind of see where there's a break, and then you just start at the next one. And there's almost always like a little diagram in the pattern somewhere. It shows what the pattern pieces should look like. I use that as a guide to sort of puzzle it together. Meanwhile, I think I'll just, I'll send Artai a little email and ask her if she can get some numbers printed on the pattern pages. I don't know if that's hard to do. I don't know anything about making those patterns, but I'll ask her if she can do it, because I do think that would be really helpful. It just makes it faster. It's not difficult to puzzle them together, but it does make it a lot faster. Okay, so that is my Lillies dress. I have to tell you guys, I am dead in love with this dress. I really, really love it. I don't know if you guys remember this cotton mousseline that I showed you guys a few weeks ago. I got from Emma One Sock. And I had originally, I bought this thinking I was going to make a dress from LB Textiles, and now I think I really need to make another one of these in this, and I'm going to make the sleeveless version. Yeah, I don't, again, my house is kind of a wreck at the moment, so I don't know when I'll get to that. Hopefully sometime soon. I also don't know what my next video is going to be about, because I just don't know how much sewing I'm going to be able to get done in my chaotic mess at the moment. So anyways, oh, I know what else I was going to tell you guys. Deb commented, she said thank you for introducing us to the Aura patterns. She also said thanks for sharing new pattern makers and resources. Let us buy you a Ko-Fi. Coffee. I don't really know. Ko-Fi, I think you say it. It would help with costs. You know what, Deb? That is a great idea. So I am going to work this week on getting a Ko-Fi account set up, and I will have a link for you guys for next week in case any of you do want to make a small donation. Thanks for the suggestion. I really appreciate it. And I think that's it. As always, I thank you very, very much for spending some time with me. If you enjoy my videos, please do hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, share me with your friends, all that good stuff. And until next week, happy sewing.